Hey, hello, comrades. Welcome to Ushanka. Oh, hold on. Hook up my microphone. I apologize. I went a little bit too fast. Okay, please let me know the sound is okay. I just got my microphone. How's it going? Welcome to Ushanka Show. Almost 45,000 subscribers, and I'm trying to get. Let's see. Usually I look at a computer because it's hard to see on the phone. I'm doing live from the phone, and let's see if I can turn this off. Is it better? Yeah, it's better. Okay, we got ready first questions, but let me get this stuff straight so I can see on this big screen. How you doing? Doing okay. We got almost 45,000 subscribers, so that's pretty exciting. And I'm trying to get my own stuff going. Привет, greetings. My video is still not showing up. Trying to get it going so I can see it on the big screen, but right now it doesn't want to show yet. Shoot. So welcome. Thank you for joining. If you guys have any questions, we got Finland online, we got Great Britain, so it looks like mostly we have comrades from the overseas. Let me see if I can get the light better. My glasses will be not visible. I got a reflection going. I apologize for that. It reflects from my computer screen. Just trying to see that I got even Argentina. Okay, here we go. Turn sound off here. Sorry, just got distracted. There you go. Sound is off. All right. So we're doing good. Welcome to Ushanka Show, as I said. I'm trying to read questions right away. Yugoslavia is a popular question. I will probably make a video about it, but Tito was not popular with Stalin, so it was like I did example, like picture you have a gay cousin in your family, so Yugoslavia was like a gay cousin for us. It's still socialist, but wasn't really correct way socialist, so we never talk much about Yugoslavia. And since Tito broke up with Stalin kind of wasn't happy about that. So that's I can tell you about that. But then, of course, in the 80s, a lot of people wanted to get goods from Yugoslavia. You can purchase jeans, and I think they made nice leather jackets. So some goods from Yugoslavia were popular. Lithuanians, Latvians, and Estonians, I mean, they were also Soviet people. So I was told that if you go to visit Baltic states, you better speak Ukrainian and Russian because they're going to ignore you. So they're like very nationalist. So I hope I answer your question there. What does Sputnikov means? It's my pen name. I wrote a book. I hope you guys, some of you read it. Sputnik, it means satellite. If you don't know what Sputnik is, you probably should learn a little bit more about the space race between America and Soviet Union. So Sputnik, it's satellite. So Sputnikov, it's kind of like Smirnov. Sputnikov. So Sputnik is Soviet term and Ov is British term. We got more people from England. Hello, Sean. Hey, we got people even from Latvia. Greetings. What was August coup like? Should be probably talking about what was happening in Moscow. We were upset because we kind of supported. Sorry, my computer froze. We were supporting Gorbachev, like Perestroika. So when those hardcore communists took over, we weren't really happy about it. But it didn't last long. I'm sorry, but I got internet is not working really good on my computer right now. I froze, but what was your and other Soviet opinion of Canada? Well, I mean, Canada wasn't, doing any, wasn't as bad as USA, of course, but of course we'll look at them like they are American kiss butters when it came to anything like, Cold War. But the main challenge, of course, with Canadians was that they were really good in ice hockey. So there was I didn't think it was anything challenge like hate wise, but I would say neutral, slightly negative. Okay, so all right. So Canadians were okay. We got people from California. Greetings. Question, comrade, what was your experience about anti-Semitism? Well, my experience, it's hard to have an anti-Semitic experience if you're not Jewish, right? It's like it's hard to be treated as black in America if you're not black. But I'm planning to make a video on this topic. There's a lot of interesting things to share, but we definitely had a lot of it. There were limitations about how many Jewish people could attend specific colleges. And I think in Ukraine, we had more of it. Like some Jewish people from Kiev had to move to go to Moscow to get to college because it was easier for a Jewish person to attend college in Moscow than in Ukraine. Ukraine was more anti-Semitic, well, government. I mean, it's all policies from the government, right? They just tell you, hey, we got too many Jewish students. You'd have some limitations on that. We got somebody even from Mars. Okay. Super chats question turn on. I think they should be on right now. Looks to me like it should be working. If anybody feels generous today or want to have some super important question needs to be answered before, you can drop a small donation and we will answer your question first thing. So always great. Don't forget to put likes. We got 36 people and 16 likes. So welcome, guys. What Soviet people thought about Romania and Ceausescu? I mean, we didn't know much about Romania. That was in our camp. Romanians generally was a little slightly negative because we were looking at them like they are almost like a gypsy people. They look gypsy. We didn't really, besides Romanian leather jackets and maybe shoes, I don't think anything positive was. In Ceausescu, I mean, he was like Romanian Brezhnev, so it's old guy that runs country forever. Who seems to be the best, most fondly remembered Soviet leader right now in Russia? Well, I don't live in Russia, but of course now they polishing really hard image of Stalin, and they saying the worst was of course Gorbachev because he destroyed the country, which I think you can look at Gorbachev more like a witness, like he was a forester, guy in charge of the forest, and the tree collapsed, but tree was just rotten, can't blame him. I mean, he tried to fix it, but it didn't work out. It's like he poked a little hole in the dam to relieve the pressure, and the whole dam just kind of shut in his face. Now he claims that he actually always wanted to destroy the Soviet Union, but I think he's full of crap. He just didn't realize how bad the situation was. How popular was Alexandrov ensemble? So, I mean, it was popular because they played it all the time. I don't think people were asking for it, but there was always control about what music going to be played on TV or radio. So they played a lot of classical music, a lot of this folk dance, folk singing. I never was a big fan of that singing. It's when you're young, you want to listen to pop music, not some. I think Alexandrov SM was the U.S. Army. I mean, U.S. Army, Soviet Army, right? So yeah, they. Did the Soviet workers feel like themselves or party leaders had the power? Soviet workers had no power. Everything was controlled by Communist Party. If you think about construction of power in Soviet Union, we had like official and the real. I mean, Communist Party penetrated the whole country from top to the bottom. So like every factory had a communist leader who would tell factory director like, hey, you need to do this and that. So from all perspective, it was a Communist Party that was pushing its policies all through the country. So I don't think workers ever felt like they were in charge. I mean, officially, yes, like was it paying lip service, but communists were controlling everything. I'm glad you like, maybe if I listen now, but talking about the Alexandra ensemble, I totally didn't care when Especially there's some singers like they had a really high pitched voice. So you see this military guy who's like oh my god. Okay, moving along. What did you know about South America when I lived in the USSR? Well, South America, I mean, I was always enjoyed geography a lot, so I knew about countries. But generally, the only main thing I can think of is Argentina war with Great Britain. We were cheering for Argentina, and there was official policy. And then, of course, Pinochet in Chile, that was another big thing because, Soviet Union was for Allende. So that's pretty much, otherwise I can't think of any other countries that we were thinking about. I mean, I always, just the way the sound of the country, Uruguay was kind of funny, Montevideo, the capital, but otherwise I can't think of anything else. Which do you like better, tank, T-72, BMP? I mean, it's a different animals. One is tank and one's a troop carrier, so you can't really compare one to another. What kind of relation was between Ukraine and Soviet administration? Well, pretty much Moscow was telling Kiev what to do. A famous example is when Chernobyl power plant exploded in the end of April. Gorbachev told Ukrainian leader, and once again, Gorbachev was leader of the Communist Party of Soviet Union. He was not official leader of the Soviet Union, right? He wasn't president. Then later they come up and he became a president of Soviet Union. And we have our Ukrainian guy, and of course his last name just left my brain. So he told him, like, you're doing a parade on May 1st, which was the worst day to do parade in Kiev because it was really radiation pollution bad. But he said, are you going to put your party ticket on the table and quit Communist Party or get fired, or you have a parade? So they made Ukrainians have a parade on the May 1st. So Moscow was totally in charge, and unfortunately our guy, oh my goodness, what is his last name? Can't remember right now. Should. So yeah. Thanks for your answer. Greetings from Argentina, and gracias. What do modern day Russian people think about your videos on your Russian language channel? It's not really popular. It's kind of interesting. There's a lot of bloggers here in America that make videos now in Russian about life in America. Mine is very boring. So I have like a small group that people follow me. I think I have like 28,000 subscribers total, but not a lot of views. There's one thing that kind of annoys me about YouTube. Well, first of all, I don't know why people subscribe and never watch. Like, I don't subscribe if I'm not planning to watch the channel. So, like, you make a video, it has, you have 28,000 subscribers, but your video will get 1,000 views in a week. So it's like, definitely, and 50% of those are like not your subscribers. It's kind of strange. I mean, it's kind of similar also, there's a lot of my videos, they have, 1,000, 2,000 views, and I have almost 45,000 subscribers. So it's strange. People I don't know why they subscribe anyways. But then Chernobyl video, my top performing video has almost 600,000 views, so it's weird. Some people like it. A lot of people, back in Russia, a lot of people are racist. A lot of people who live here, they're racist. So, like, my opinion about what's going on right now in America, they really mad at me because I think there's a lot of black people being treated unfairly, comparing, like, for the same crime, like, black people getting punished way harder than white people and stuff like that. So they very upset about it. But as I said, channel is not really popular. I just do it more out of the habit. What do you think of America today? It's not really a question about Soviet Union. Well, this is like the final stage of empire. We've seen this before happen to United Kingdom. Military might still there, but our bridges collapsing. We spending billions of dollars on wars all over the world, but then we can't take care of our own people, our own cities. So I think it's that final stage of American empire. The next step will be probably, kind of like falling to Britain. We should pay attention more to our own country than having wars, but there's people who are making a lot of money by having these permanent wars everywhere. So it's not good. There's a reason why Trump got elected. It's like the system has a virus, has an issue, and this is like you have sometimes giant pimple come out on your face, and there's a reason why you get the big pimple. I mean, people in Italy elected Berlusconi some time ago for the same reason. They get so frustrated with regular politicians because no matter which way you vote, right, left or right, there's some things that are always going to happen. No matter Republican or Democrat in power, you're still going to have wars. So we need more parties. We need more choice. We need to change a lot of things. Otherwise, this is only for so long a world will be paying American bills and taking American dollars. Then at one time they say no more, and then who's gonna send us goods if they don't want to take our dollars? So, what do you think of the Baltic Way? I'm not sure what your question about Baltic Way. I don't know what you mean. It's boring and sad you asked the question, but because you're worried about certain people, you're skipping the question. I'm not sure which question I skipped. What do you think about Euromaidan in Ukraine? I was very skeptical in that part that I said it's, it's like when you live, you have a little farm next to the woods where the big bear lives. You probably shouldn't do stuff that will upset the bear because that's my kind of practical look at the things. The Russia always considers Ukraine as like their backyard. So the initial uprising was pretty much Yanukovych said, I'm going to take money from Russia instead of from Europe, and I'm going to be more with Russia aligned. So apparently that's what made people upset. So it's like, okay, is that a big deal where you take the money? And so then, of course, Putin got upset, and then Ukraine lost Crimea. Civil war started in eastern Ukraine. So I don't think it was worth, price was not worth to do that, because it's just unfortunate reality. If you think, look what's happening around the United States. Grenada in the 80s, Panama. List goes on. Like countries like Russia or United States, all the neighboring countries they consider as their backyard, so they will do whatever they want. And what are you going to do about it? So it's a complicated question. It's definitely, it just things got worse. But I don't know. What I say. And if some people think America was involved and kind of created Maidan, but then, what happened out of it, they never came to help, which I was telling too, like, yeah, Ukraine doesn't have oil or gas, so if you're hoping that America is going to send their troops and air carriers, they won't. What most do you miss about Soviet Union? My childhood. It was good. Besides school, of course, I really enjoyed being a kid in Soviet Union. And of course, you had no responsibilities. It felt safe. What the Soviet people thought about Iranian Revolution, honestly, I don't think anything. I think there were, people. Government was upset because America was involved, but otherwise, I don't recall anything. How Russian people viewed Hungary? Hungary was kind of off radar. I totally don't remember anything about. We like their buses. I think Hungary sent us Icaros, those big, nice buses. We like them a lot, so that was great. But otherwise, we didn't have much information about life in Hungary, but I would like their buses. I think Hungary was somewhat like Yugoslavia. Have you ever heard of Bold and Bankrupt? Of course I did a lot. People for some reason thinking I should watch his videos, which is kind of silly because he explores what like what happened. I lived in Soviet Union. He's trying to find some remnants of Soviet Union, so he gets excited riding the Soviet-made bicycle. I own Soviet bicycles while I was in the Soviet Union. So I'm glad he bringing people interest about USSR, but he is 30 years late and 5 rubles shy. Like for me, I have no interest to watch his videos because I lived that life and I have nothing to explore or learn something new from him. Hey, we got some donation. Thank you so much, Svetlana. We got pounds. She's pounding me from Great Britain. So her question, why did peasants in the USSR had so many limitations? And how easy would it be for them to move careers? Well, this is kind of standard procedure in any country that practices socialism. First of all, peasants suffer. Soviet Union did that, China did that. They force people to work for free, so in order to keep them from running away, you have to limit their movements, right? So Soviet people, like peasants, had no passports, like they couldn't travel at all because you have to have an ID. So the only way to escape the village will be when you're young to go to army and maybe then join and go, like professionally. My kid just texted me. Apparently, I told him that some people want me to play Metro video game and comment on that. So he said, I'm willing to play if you comment because I'm not in the video games at all. Last time I played video games in 1999, it was a Total Annihilation game. So I'm not a video game guy. So anyway, back to the question about peasants. Like my grandparents were forced to work. Like think about it. You are required to work so many days a year трудодень, free of pay, like no pay. It's just required since it's collective farm and you're a member, like you owner of that collective farm. So hey, come over and work for free. And as a payment, we'll let you have this little plot of land that rent free. You can harvest the little stuff so you can survive. So that was horrible, I think, for peasants in the Soviet Union. And of course, now one of the reasons why villages are dying out because all the young people were moving out, like my parents, and later on, as long as when they loosen up screws a little bit, all the youth were just gone because there was miserable life in the villages, and said they still had our houses, no running water, working for free. Okay, moving along. So I need to find where. Another heavy duty question, official line on Deng Xiaoping, I have no idea. I mean, I lived in Ukraine, I lived in Soviet Union, but I didn't study socialism that hard or a lot of the people discussing like these whole small details about which way revisionists go this way in socialism and Soviet Union went that way. We really didn't care. Like most people in Soviet Union by 80s were tired of all this socialism slogans and socialism this, socialism that. They just wanted to live life and stuff like that. So we got somebody from Brazil. I already asked you about Gulag Archipelago. I'm reading that book right now. Unfortunately, I have an English version. I picked in a library pretty cheap. They had used book sales. A lot of people think it's lies. There's, I think, plenty of information to confirm. And it's heavy read. It's not entertainment, right? But right now, if you're not lazy and if you want to find out is it truth or not, just Google, like, he says, okay, in such and such year, they arrested these people, and they call this like teacher's case or engineer's case. All you do is just Google it, and it's all gonna be there. So he was writing stories in what 70s that book was written, right? And at that time, if you want to check in the information, you have to go to a library, and of course, good luck to find anything about those events in the Soviet library. But now you can cross check all his messages and I think it's the truth, and it's a sad truth about Gulag. So, I mean, he opened eyes a little bit on the history. I mean, he went through that. So, I think it's a very important book. Although a lot of people now in Russia hate him because he's a liar, but you can cross-check all his stories. I mean, there's more books now about Gulag and different people experiencing that. I come from family that both Republicans who adore Trump and Democrats who hate him simply because of party. You being completely unbiased and not from here, it gives me a real view. Thanks. Yeah, I think it's the main problem that right now it's pretty much like football teams. Your team can break any rules as long as they win. That's horrible. Like, so what if Trump does this? He's Republican, so whatever was, if Obama would be doing that, there'll be blood on the streets. Like, oh my God, do you see what Obama did? And vice versa. So that's horrible when people pretty much like, he's my team, so he can do whatever, or he can send the military on the streets because people are, protesting against killing. Hey, like, there's abandonment, but you were okay with the military, your guys, and say your guys, like protesting in Lansing, and Trump saying, hey, go talk to the good people. So when the white people with guns come in and scare the hell out of Michigan governor, oh, it's okay, go talk to her, and they good people. When the black people, suddenly we need to send troops and tear gas and rubber bullets, it's very sad. That's why we need more parties in America, more choice. Because I look at the Democrats and Republicans like two sides of the same coin. Same guy owns the coin, they just toss it. It looks like we have an election and choices, but we're not. So, what's your opinion on the Soviet memory repression in Ukraine? I think they went overboard, but it's hard to, being mad at them for that. I mean, Ukraine suffered greatly under Soviet Union. I mean, we're talking mostly during the Stalin era, but then of course in 70s they came up with the law trying to slowly remove Ukrainian language. Like, I lived in Kiev, capital of Ukraine. We hardly had any Ukrainian language schools. So I think it's overboard, like removing all the symbols of the Soviet Union because it's kind of part of the history, but they removed all the Nazi symbols in Germany. So it's a tough one, I'll tell you. Like, some monuments I think should remain. Some, like I told you, we had this huge monument for the revolution in Kiev, and I think it was completely justified to remove it because it was the most prominent spot in the middle of the Kiev. It was nothing to do, Kiev actually didn't participate in October Revolution. We had our national Ukrainian government in Kiev, but now then another monument at Lenin, small monument by the Bessarabka Bazaar market, I think that should remain. It had, but it's me, or at least relocated somewhere, not destroyed. But it's easy for me to say it living in America. So, moving along. Hello from Croatia. Hi Zrinko. Привет. Are you optimistic about the future of Ukraine in the long run? Not really. Country is dying out. Like, we're paying the price of life in the Soviet Union. I mean, the population, like people think, hey, population was growing in the Soviet Union. It's like, I don't know how, because most of my friends were one-kid families and two max. You don't grow population when you want two-kid families. The apartments so were tiny, and in the villages it was just hard life. I'm not optimistic. It's population dropping. It's worse than Japan, and it's poor country, super corrupt. Unless the whole generation of the Soviet bureaucrats dies out and maybe younger generation moves into power. Like, look, a lot of people upset about Trump here, and Clinton lost to Trump, which is kind of like, how bad candidate you're gonna have to lose to Trump. And what we have now, we got Biden. I mean, We need the younger people, young generation move into power to do some changes to update the whole structure for the new world, And we got Biden, like really. So we're gonna choose between two old farts. Both have a history of sexual harassment. One grabs women by the pussy, another one does the same thing. So like fantastic. How would former citizens view Trump? It's complicated. A lot of them like him because he likes Russia. He's a Putin's butt kisser, so a lot of people like him a lot. And of course, it makes America right now look so like a circus with the main clown in a white office. So a lot of people love it. So, okay. Did Hungary send you some kind of brandy or wine? Maybe. Don't remember. Maybe it was something. I think it was some sweet wine. Can't remember the name. Vermouth. Yeah, Венгерский vermouth. Vermouth from Hungary. Remember what light bulbs are all? I remember only Soviet bulbs. Since you were born in Ukraine during Soviet era, do you consider yourself a Soviet? Yes. First of all, Soviet. I grew up as a Russian language Ukrainian guy. So for me, I never cared that I'm Ukrainian. Still, like I don't have like a lot of nationalism in me. So yes, I'm first of all Soviet. It upsets a lot of people in Ukraine because like you're Ukrainian. I was like, nah, not really. I spent 20 years in Soviet Union. I'm not a religious guy. I can't speak Ukrainian really well. I grew up. It was first language, and I didn't use Ukrainian at all. So, was there skin magazines? No, they didn't have any skin magazines in the Soviet Union. There was some a little bit black and white. People made them illegally, but no, we don't have any skin magazines in the Soviet Union. Soviet Union, people had no sex. That's like a standard meme about Soviet Union. Bold and Bankrupt tells a very human story that counters hateful Western propaganda. Could be. I mean, I don't watch him. One time I kind of clicked on and he was riding Soviet bike and like almost screaming with joy. Oh look, I'm riding Soviet bike. I'm like, yeah, whatever, dude. Bye. So, but I'm glad he's bringing that stories. He travels, talks to people. But what you need to keep in mind, different mentality. If I will interview somebody in Ukraine, for example, and he interviews, when you talk to foreigners, of course you won't tell them the whole truth because you want to keep some kind of image. Like, hey, let's talk about outhouses. They'll be, So his interviews, they're not really authentic because people will never tell a foreigner the whole truth. You know what I mean? So anyway, moving along. Before the Soviet Union collapsed, what job did you do? I was 20, so I was still in college. So I got a degree in electronical engineering, and my salary was $20 a month. So, how is Trump is worse than Hitler Rodham? Because he's dumber. He makes America look horrible and bad around the world. I mean, he is like a joke for the other leaders. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. I don't know how Hillary would be as a leader of the country because she never became one. But I never voted for her. But like I think personally he embarrasses the United States and the world. Do you feel USSR was pervasive in everyday life? I'm not sure what pervasive word means, so I can't answer your question. I didn't feel like I was afraid of KGB. Is that you're talking about? In the 80s, it was we had way better. During the Stalin era, I mean, people were horrified and scared every single day because they could get snatched on the street without explanation, arrested, and sent to Gulag. How many languages do you speak? Well, fluently, I would say, I mean, English Ukrainian, English Russian. So my Russian is the first language. English now will be second. Ukrainian will be third. Like I understand, but I'll struggle speaking fluently Ukrainian because I'll be dropping English words. I understand Polish. I understand Bulgarian. Can't really speak them, and I can have a little Spanish, but not much. I used to work with Mexicans on the farm, picking apples and fruit. Stuff like that. All right, moving along. Did the USSR say good things about China in general public? Well, after the Mansky conflict, we kind of like, I mean, China was still better than the United States, but we had a lot of jokes about conflicts on Chinese borders. So it was again like slightly negative, neutral attitude because China wasn't following the Soviet Union. It's your own damn fault Trump got elected. Well, as I said, there is a reason for a season. There is a reason why Trump got elected. You can't say America has some serious problems that people decided to vote for the guy who has no clue what he's talking about. I mean, English is not my first language, but I could tell like his vocabulary is so poor, it hurts me because he's constantly using words things, that thing, that thing. Like you can guess what he's trying to say, but he's never like it's just frustrating. And the guy became a leader of the country. Like, oh my goodness. Would you imagine come back and live in Ukraine today? If I, with American money, I could imagine. I wouldn't live in the cities. I always hate cities, but to have a little house out in the country, sure, I wouldn't mind that. My wife would never want to do that. But I won't have a problem. But the only problem, like in the village my mom lives, is just you need to watch out because there's a lot of people similar to crackheads here in America. People that wander around trying to steal stuff. We have a lot of alcoholics like that. That all they want is to steal something to sell and buy vodka. Moving along. Nobody worries about the country, does their team. Exactly, that's what I'm trying to say. Right now, it's like, as long as we put Republican in power, that's it. He can do whatever he wants. Like, for some reason, it's so important. Like, no, let's look at the policies. Like, let's stop the useless wars. Like, how long were we in Afghanistan? I mean, it's great somebody making good money, but we paid it with Americans' blood and Afghans' blood. So that's kind of what my idea on that. Привет из Нью-Йорка. We got some even Russian-speaking people joining. Greetings. By the way, I want to apologize. When I went on the wrong channel, I was doing also live today for my Russian channel because people wanted to know my opinion about recent riots and stuff. So I went on Ushanka Show and started talking Russian. So I apologize for those 38 people that joined me and they were like, what's going on? So just guys, please don't get a little crazy. There's arguments now going on. That politics is so hardcore right now. People are so upset. It's insane. Okay. Well, unfortunately, a lot of protests can roll into riots. As I said, it is what it is. But I think if the white people would be killed and treated by cops just like black people are, I think will be also riots, similar riots, and they'll be using their dangerous-looking guns. The big difference is, like, I live in a small town here, and we know our cops. We actually elect sheriff, right? So they can have accountability. Like, they may stop a teenager who is speeding and is like, oh, you my buddy from high school kid. All right, don't speed next time. Be careful. So there is a book of the law and there's a spirit of the law. So like when you live in a small community, when you know cops, you can always remove the sheriff that's not good sheriff because you can re-elect a different one. So they kind of, you have an influence on your police because they know. I live in Michigan. Now in the big cities, like in Minneapolis right there, it was like 7% cops are local, the rest is out of, so they come to work like from out of Minneapolis to work as cops. Of course they have no connection, they know ain't nobody in that neighborhood. And if it's a bad neighborhood ghetto, and they just best way to handle it is just to be as rough as possible. I mean, I like local cops. It's one time I locked my car by accident. I called local police. They came and unlocked the car, and we had a nice chat. So okay, we got huge donation. Thank you so much, Mr. Spudrobera. Looks like England feeling generous. Oh no, it's 20 euros. I wonder where you're from. Not a question, but my parents smuggled jeans and fruits from Finland to USSR. They were once caught by Soviet border guard, car full, and told they were for a friend. The guard took a banana bunch and wished good trip. Took a banana bunch. Oh, so he took part of your, and so yeah, this is interesting. In the beginning, when I moved to America, people were asking me to bring things to Ukraine. Like people were desperate for jeans, chewing gum, American cigarettes, and so on. Now they're like, don't bring things, bring money. Like we can buy anything here, we can, but we need money for that. Before it was shortage of goods, now it's shortage of money. By the way, we got almost 100 people watching, but only 49 likes. So if you join me and you don't hate me really bad, you can always put the like, and it will help for the channel to move up. Thank you for your comments and your generosity. Thank you so much. Okay, we're moving along. Trying to catch. Lenin statues should be removed. I said there's a different opinion. You can always, you can remove them, but not destroy them. And like a lot of bad things happened to Ukraine after Lenin. It's actually Stalin policies. I need to look up more. Maybe some of you guys know about it. Apparently, League of Nations, right before United Nations was a League of Nations, they had embargo on Soviet Union because Soviet Union refused Russia obligations, like debts that Russia had. So they refused to buy, like trade with Soviet Union. Like they say we're not buying your gold, but only agreed if you sell grain. And that could be one of the reasons why Stalin was taking all the grain, because he wanted to build factories, right? Do industrialization. The only way he could do it is to buy goods from West. But since West refused to take gold, they started confiscating grains. It doesn't make them any better person, but that's why Ukrainian peasants in Russia were starving, because Soviets were taking all the grain to sell so they can buy factories to build tanks and military airplanes. I didn't look it up really well, so it's just a thought, but if you know anything about it, let me know. Remember that time when the US and Russia were on the same side? That was cool. Well, you need to have a common enemy. They both, it was cool till, now Russia's saying, no, America didn't help us much during World War II. We did it all ourselves, but it's always something, unfortunately. Aren't they putting the Bandera era Nazi symbols back in Ukraine? Well, Western Ukraine, well, first of all, you guys need to stop these Bandera Nazi symbols. Bandera always was fighting for independence of Ukraine. It started actually fighting with Polish before he started fighting Soviets. Bandera is like the most, it's beautiful how they did the propaganda, because actually there were more Russians fighting against Soviets during World War II. If you know about history of Russian Freedom Army, ROA, Russian Освободительная Army under General Vlasov, they had Soviet generals like Vlasov and others fighting against Stalin's Soviet Union, and like over 100,000 Russians were in that army. But it's all like hush hush. But man, Bandera is a huge deal, because Bandera was with Nazis because enemy of my enemy is my friend. When he realized that Germany and Hitler not planning to let Ukraine be independent, they turned around and they started fighting Germans. They fought everyone who was against Ukrainian independence. So Bandera is not a Nazi person. He was fighting for Ukrainian independence. And since he was fighting Soviets, Nazi and Soviet Union were buddies when they carved apart Poland. They had really nice agreements. They were on the same team. They started together World War II. Germany and Soviet Union started together World War II. Look it up. Hitler wanted together in the same day attack Poland. So September 1st from, both sides, but Stalin wanted to wait a little bit, and I think they started September 19, and it's when they attacked Poland from the other side. Soviet Union and Germany were on the same side, best friends. They both started World War II. So that's why in our history books we have two wars. We have World War II, and then we had the Great Patriotic War, and they're like totally different wars. Like, we were good guys until June 22nd, when Germany attacked Soviet Union and betrayed us. Anyway. So Bandera symbols are not Nazi symbols. Bandera symbols are the symbols of fight for independent Ukraine. And it's a yellow and blue flag, which is right now official flag of Ukraine. And it's a trident, which is official symbol of Ukraine. Thoughts on real Russia, Sergei scamming tens of thousands through cash buried and deleting videos? I honestly have no idea what you're talking about. I think I know the channel Real Russia and the Sergei, but I have no idea. I guess he wanted some quick cash. What can I assume? I'm not sure how you can scam viewers. But you can donate money to my channel. You can buy my book. You can do Patreon. But I don't see how I can scam you guys. And I'm not sure what's happening there. If you know anything, send me a link. I would like to look it up. I didn't know about it. I heard during Stalin era you can get free education in your native language. We had colleges in Ukrainian language, but like I said, by 70s, I studied everything in Russian. Most schools in Kiev were Russian, in the capital of Ukraine. Kharkov, like all eastern part of Ukraine, people didn't speak any Ukrainian. Like, everything was done in Russian. I mean, eventually we're going to have a one world with one language. It's probably going to be English. So it's just the way it's going to happen. So I'm not really butthurt about, I had to speak Russian. But definitely, it's one thing they were saying, every nation had its right to be independent, but of course it didn't include Ukrainians, because Ukraine want to be independent from Soviet Russia, but of course Russia didn't think so. I mean, there's an interesting history how Ukraine got overtaken. Hey, we got Irish Partisan, guys. Everyone say hello to Irish Partisan from Belarus. He has a really good channel, growing really well. He kind of bold and bankrupt, but I don't think he's also bold, but I don't think he's bankrupt. But he's doing good stories about life in Belarus. He lives there full time, so check it out, his channel. I think he's gonna beat me up on the amount of subscriber he has, because his English is way better. So hey, greetings too. And I think I also have I saw the Car Enthusiast, another popular channel. He's watching my channel too, so it's greatly appreciated. Uh, okay, trying to find next question. How do you feel about the Russian Federation getting to inherit USSR's UN security? Honestly, I don't follow much about those events, but Russia kind of officially said, "Hey, we are officially Soviet Union. Will be the person, your grandpa died, and so you taking over." Soviet Union played these interesting games, like they wanted more votes in the United Nations, so they said since the Ukraine suffered so much during World War II, they should have a separate vote, and then Belarus too. And I was like, so they never were independent countries, right? We were just part of the Soviet Union. It seemed like United States can say, hey, Alaska could have also a vote in United Nations, Texas too, because it's very big state. So I don't have a problem with that. Hey Sergey, you have to try and play a game called Zima. I might ask my son to play. Honestly, I'm not into video games. He tried to show me some game of World of Tanks, but I'm not just into video games. I'm really busy with my work, with my family, and then I'm writing books, making YouTube channels. So I'm creating a lot of content. I don't consume much content. What was the relation of Soviet Union and South Africa? Of course, South Africa was apartheid. That was extremely negative about South Africa. We were supporting Angola, if you remember. And Angola, I think, had a war with South Africa, right? If I remember correctly. What do you think about concentration camps in China? I mean, I think they're fighting Muslims, surprising, because I think they're trying to have a. They're afraid, I think, that China can get broken up if you let too much freedom. They learned the lesson from Soviet Union. So, like Tiananmen Square. Chinese communists are pretty hardcore when they keeping down all those movements to prevent China repeating experience of the Soviet Union, break apart, lose control and stuff like that. Okay. Was Bandera also responsible for war crimes against Ukrainian Jews? Maybe. He was also responsible. They killed a lot of Polish people too, and Polish killed a lot of Ukrainians. So I'm not sure about Jewish, but I wouldn't be surprised. But then, it's hard to name any country in the world except Israel that didn't give its Jewish people a hard time, especially during the war. They might just were trying to confiscate food or ask for support, and they refused, they killed them. But the main war was not against Jews. He was fighting against against Germans, against Polish, and against the Soviet Union. Hey Sergey, did you teach about Russian-Japanese war in a history class? I really didn't teach on a lot of details, but 1905 war was a big embarrassment, and one of the reasons why Russia collapsed, and because it was very embarrassing, pathetic laws. I mean, look at the size of the Japan and look at the size of Russia, and Russia signed that they lost. So it was a lot of hurt for pride, even for me, I'm not Russian, but to lose being such a huge country, this kind of shows that Russia was a weak country and needed to be changed. So should the hammer and sickle be banned, symbol like swastika? Well, you need to look. Swastika is a symbol of Germany, Germans in Germany, there is concept that Slavic people are not humans. So that's what swastika represents, right? Jews are not humans, and so on. Hammer and sickle, it's a little bit different symbol, but unfortunately it went that way that a lot of people got killed. But I don't think it's the same level swastika and hammer and sickle. Bandera was in concentration camp. Yep. Only when the Germans got in trouble by 1944, then let him go because they knew he gonna fight Soviets too. But yeah, he tried to establish independent Ukraine, and the Americans, the Germans had none of it. They had no plans. The Cubans thought well of in Ukraine, of course. I mean, it was a Soviet propaganda, so we supported Cuba and Castro big time. Is that vodka you sipping on? No, I'll be start slurring by now if I'll be sipping vodka. A lot of questions, guys. You asking me like, I don't really have enough time to watch the events, current events in China. So I don't like when people put people in the concentration camp. So it's automatically negative regardless anywhere. Is it in China or in America or in Brazil? Concentration camps shouldn't be there. When did you learn to speak English? I learned back home. I studied hard because I was hoping to get a good job in Ukraine after collapse of the Soviet Union, but things turned out differently, so I came here in America. So, what are your thoughts of Comrade Lenin and Brezhnev? Most people think it was the best times in Soviet Union during the Brezhnev regime because it was oil prices were high, so we had better situation with foodstuffs. But he is also the symbol of Zastoy. So pretty much Soviet Union was like an autopilot. It was like government admitted like, okay, we're not going to build communism. So they came up with this new concept. Let's call it developed socialism. So we already arrived. Let's just kind of just cruise along. So that was the times when pretty much you could tell like everyone is just give up on this whole concept of building communism. Hey, we arrived at developed socialism and let's just live our way, So I had a good childhood and I was during Brezhnev regime. I mean, I didn't have a lot of respect for the guy. Everyone was chuckling because he was too old. He could barely speak. So this whole thing was just, kind of, they were saying one thing, but people were busy trying to have a good life. So once again, question about Baltic states. I don't have really an opinion. They were part of Soviet Union. I just thought they're quite nationalist because I was told that if you speak Russian in the stores in Baltic states, they will ignore you. But I went there in 1989 or 87, and we had no problem speaking Russian. They were fine. I was surprised that a lot of people couldn't speak Russian, though they're older people. But and they had a better, they had more stuff in their stores and stuff like that. Okay, moving along. They're talking about Esperanto. Yeah, I heard a little bit about that language, but unfortunately it didn't go through. But it will be nice, I think, to have one language because it's gonna end up, people are mixing up, world becoming smaller. I mean, right now there's the opposite direction move. Like everyone thinks if they build walls and fences and just have their own little countries, it will be better. I don't think so. Were Soviet people aware of the Philippines? Not really, except when there would be some hurricane. There was no information about Philippines. Now I'm kind of into Pacific War, and it's a lot of course, regarding to Philippines. So I'm learning more about Philippines that way. What do you think of the Arctic race? Well, it's kind of interesting. A lot of people, even in the government, they saying no, global warming is not happening. It's all lies, and everyone is building icebreakers. So it's like, there's one thing going on in public, and in private, like totally different. So there's a lot of resources, a lot of money in the Arctics now. So it's just another proof that climate is changing. It's just they don't admit it, but they want to. Russia is putting bases where they can. They don't have enough money to help their own people, but they find money to protect their interest in the north. What is the biggest difference between today coming to US and coming in your days? Was it harder? It's hard to say. I mean, the way I came to America was really hard because I came to work in a summer camp, and it was a camp for the inner city kids from Chicago. So like 100%, there was camp. Everyone was black, from the ghetto, South Side Chicago, West Side Chicago. So for me, it was quite a shock because I didn't really experience like regular America. I'm right there in the ghetto. So my personal experience is different. That was pretty hardcore. But then, of course, I met locals, so I was surprised how friendly Americans are now. Like, I think more people are angry with all the situation. But back in the mid 90s, I came first time in 95, I was shocked. I was actually a little bit suspicious because Americans were way too nice. They're like, hey, if you need to go shopping, we can pick you up and take you shopping. Or, hey, we were wondering maybe you want to see Mackinac Island, so this weekend, why don't you come with us? We'll take you, show you Mackinac Island. And they like paid hotel. They knew because I had no money. So I met a lot of like super friendly Americans. They were too friendly. I was like, there's something wrong with them. They're too friendly. So it was a good experience. I already answered question about Brezhnev, so I'm gonna move along. People arguing about CCP, I guess it's China, Chinese Communist Party or Chinese something. It's interesting because of the butt liquor. Comrade Sergey, has your opinion of Zelensky, so that's the current president of Ukraine, improved, or do you still think he's I don't know if I said he's a butt licker. I mean, he kind of like a small version of Trump. I mean, a guy was in the movies, and he played so good the role of the president of Ukraine that people actually like, hey, why don't you become president of Ukraine? In the movies, you did so good. I'm not sure. I'm sorry, it looks like my internet is being goofy. I get knocked out. But I was skeptical. Then I got a little bit like on the positive side, but now once again, he was hoping that the United States and Trump will help him, to solve the problem with war with Russia. But of course, now butt liquor, I'm thinking Trump, and there's something going on between Trump and Putin because he is so in love with Putin. And now he's demanding that Putin should get back into G7 because, but, Russia took away Crimea. I mean, you can argue it's a good thing or not good thing, but it was done illegally. So that's why he got kicked out. But the person who is pushing for Putin and Russia being back in the G7 is Trump. Trump told Zelensky, why don't you go talk to Putin and figure out the situation? Like, I'm not helping you. So I feel bad for Zelensky. That's a real beast situation to fight. People don't have patience. I mean, we ran the country into the Ukraine and was struggling for 20 years. You can't just turn around. It's not like, you ride a car and, I'm going to turn around and drive a different way. It's hard to change everything. It's corrupted all the way through. So he probably should pay more, but then we have war and people tired of war. I don't envy him. I I wish him all the best. I mean, he did some good moves, but it's just having this kind of passive war in the East and then trying to fix all these problems with corruption and stuff. It's hard. Okay, you guys need to tell me what you talk about CCP. I guess it's Chinese Communist Party, because I don't follow that close. Like, a lot of your questions are way above my pay grade. Like, I'm not in these theories and like discussing all these little changes in policies. I don't know a lot about Chinese Communist Party. And what's the difference? It's all similar because the main leader of Communist Party of China is actually the main leader of the country. Same with the Soviet Union. So there's a lot of similarities. Sipping on some deep blue Russian vodka. Wow. Never tried that. We got some people arguing here about China. Let's see if we find any questions again. Well, when you're talking swastika, I think swastika originally came from like a symbol from actually India. If you look at the Indian symbols, there's a lot of swastika. It's some kind of Indian something. So it depending. What do you do for a living? I work at the power plant, so I make electricity. My degree in electrical engineer from Soviet Union actually helped me. So I got a job at the power plant. I make electricity. I bring the lights to your homes. So I'm working hard. Let's see if I find any more questions. Do you watch ADV China? I don't. I said I don't watch much YouTube. Oh, okay. So somebody explained me that I said that he sounded as a butt licker on the phone. Definitely he did. And, you know, he was like, I stayed in your hotel. Da 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 da. I mean, this is another sad part. All these leaders of the small countries, they know they want to impress Trump. They need to tell him that we stayed in Trump hotel. I mean, this is what's going on. And, you know, if you want to make a president of the United States happy, you need to stay in his hotel. This is just like, holy crap, you know. So yeah, he sounded like a butt licker. I mean, what else we could do? America is the only country he can actually tip the scales and help Ukraine solve the problem with war with Russia. But Trump like, hey, go talk to Putin. I'm not dealing with you. I'm okay with Putin. You know, I think Trump suggested it's totally cool that Russia took Crimea, you know. Putin for sure is a dirt on the bunker boy. I totally agree. I think that whole story, knowing how weak Mr. Trump for the young ladies that look pretty, I think something happened and it's on the tape, and he just, you know, he can't go full 100% because they will look embarrassing, but he's definitely, I mean, if the guy says, hey, I believe Trump more, I mean, I believe Putin more than I believe my own CIA and FBI, you can have a different opinion by FBI, CIA, but still, you shouldn't say that you trust Putin more than them. So there's something going on there. How sympathetic were Soviets to North Vietnamese? Well, we're supporting them big time. A lot of equipment went there. We sent military advisors, and some of them happened to fly jets and shoot down American jets, airplanes, so they definitely we support a lot. Why did the Warsaw Pact armies did not fight at Soviet-Afghan war? Because of, I guess, Soviet Union didn't think it's needed. They just, like what I remember was saying that the Americans were planning to put missiles there, nuclear missiles, and the Soviet Union said, no, it's not a good idea, so they moved the troops in. But I'm not sure. Any funny military service stories? Well, I personally didn't serve in military, but definitely there's one of the problems with YouTube. Let's make sure we got 100 likes, guys. So if you just joined me, don't forget to click like. You know, I'm trying to cover a lot of topics, but a lot of topics are not popular. For example, my Soviet education videos are not bringing a lot of views. But then I make videos about military service and they skyrocket right away. So almost like YouTube pushing you to specific topics, because I see, I made a video a week ago, still got 1,500 views. I made one video 2 days ago and it's already 2,000 views. So it's kind of like they push you like to produce specific products. I don't know how many dislikes I have right now. Oh, it says one. That's right. Oh, there's always people that I have no issues. This is the thing. When you say like it is, you're gonna piss somebody off. I have people, tankies are mad at me because they think, oh, there's a guy who lived in Soviet Union. He's gonna tell us, some, I call it Soviet porn, some beautiful stories how great it was live in Soviet Union. They're all like happy to listen to that, and then just like, oh wait, he actually didn't dislike. So anyway, I lost my train of thought. So this is what when you if you start watching my this show from the beginning, I already said about Yugoslavia. Yugoslavia was like a gay cousin, still part of the family, but we don't want to talk about them much because they didn't support Soviet Union policies. Sergei took a curious path to fame. I don't say the fame is just, I think it's really important. It's just I'm in this unique position because I'm like one last of the Soviets, right? I was born in 71, so I was 20 when Soviet Union collapsed. So I kind of almost had the full package, kid in Soviet Union, school in Soviet Union, a little bit of college, then do the army. After me, people really didn't have a full experience. Before me, most of them don't speak fluent Russian. So it's hard to find people who can, people still complain about my English. I get constantly comments like, you should hire somebody who can speak better English. So this information, and I kept diaries. I still got good memory. I remember, I don't know why, I don't remember what I did 2 weeks ago, but I remember something when I was 5. It's just my memory is so funky. So we have this unique opportunity to share with you guys my story. And from a different angle. It's not a propaganda. And I said that's why people mad at me at the left, people mad at me at the right, because they expect, or I'd be just saying how horrible it was, and I felt every day I lived in Gulag, and I, hated every minute of it. Or other people expect that I had orgasm every morning. I wake up like, oh my God, I'm in Soviet Union, Oh, sorry about that. So I think it's important, so I can share that. I can talk to people from the Soviet Union who live there and older. So I check a lot of social, like Russian websites. There's a lot of people now started sharing pictures and stories about I'm planning to make more videos about Cuba and military, Germany. So there's tons of this information that I can translate and present to you. So I think it's quite important. I don't know what you guys think, but I don't think it's like road to fame. I don't do hype in videos like I should. YouTube tells me what's popular, what's not. According to YouTube, I should just keep on telling Chernobyl stories. This is what is important. I don't do that. I think there's a lot of details needs to be covered. Once again, Tito, if you watch this video from the beginning, I already talked about it. Of course, we didn't like him because he didn't listen to Stalin, and he took Yugoslavia in a little bit different socialist path, so he was a revisionist. Okay. All right, back to your questions. What did Soviet citizens thought about Russian monarchy and Romanovs? Of course, negative. They ran Russia into. Russia wasn't as bad as they told us, but still, when the whole fate of the country depends if you have a good Tsar or bad Tsar, Russia was like a back waters of the Europe, and a lot of it, of course, is about location. I don't think you can compare like Soviet Union in America. You can compare Soviet Union in Canada. Like location-wise, it's huge. Like that Shrek movie. Sure, it's big, but look at the location. It's just such a bad location. So yeah, we didn't have anything good about either or monarchies or Romanovs. Like, he was just a weakling. They didn't talk much about what happened to Romanovs. They got killed. It was pretty ugly. But so, can you sing a Soviet anthem? I can, but I'm not drunk enough. One of my lives I did it, and I'm horrible at singing, like really, really bad. There's a question about Crimea. Wasn't a big part of Soviet Union? Yeah, that was a part of Ottoman Empire a long time ago too, and part of Turkey. So how far in the back we're gonna go to see whom it belonged to? It's always this argument. Yeah, but it was officially transferred from Soviet Union to Ukraine. So sorry, I got my video jumped. I'll be probably finishing. Usually my voice needed enough for about an hour, then I start losing it. So we'll be wrapping up pretty soon. So if you still want to do donation, you can do that. Don't forget to put the likes, so we're doing good on likes. Yeah, so there's my live is one of the lives. In the end of a live, I did the singing because I promised people if we hit $100 donation, I will sing it. And those mean people did make $100 donation. And do you think Putin is the richest man on earth secretly? I'm 100% sure. Yeah, you need to look it up. He's one of his good friends. He's a musician. He's apparently the richest musician in the world. After they had this Panama Papers leaked, he apparently owns billions, and no one knows about it. He didn't sell a lot of CDs, but he's the richest musician in the world. So, and his best buddy was Putin. So I bet you he's just keeping money, Putin's money. Oh, I have no doubt about that. Everyone has to pay at least 10 to 30% for what they steal from Russia to the pot. Okay, all right, guys. If I missed your question, I apologize. I'll be wrapping it up. Thanks for joining. It was a good conversation, and my next video will be about gypsies. I already have it ready to go, so probably on Wednesday that'll be about Soviet gypsy people. So I hope you're gonna like it. Thanks again for joining. Have a good rest of the day. We'll talk to you soon. До свидания. Goodbye.